Hey folks, BlackCross here, and welcome to another discussion video. Today's discussion video we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy future updates as well as future releases, as well as the talk for Square Enix discussion towards the anniversary of Final Fantasy. If you remember, this coming up in a couple of days from now, I think, December the 18th, is the official release date for Final Fantasy, and Square Enix are not even hiding the fact that they're really excited about what's going to come within 2018. And the funny thing is, too, they've talked about it this whole year about it being the 30th anniversary, but they haven't really done anything like, in terms of like major releases. Like, I think the major releases we've had so far are like that of in terms of like what I've done is Final Fantasy IX for the PS4, Final Fantasy 15, and all of its updates, and that's about it for this year alone. Like, there's not really that much in terms of like major game releases. In terms of like updates, however, they've been really good. But they're looking towards all of this stuff that they're going to do to be happening in 2018. In fact, they even did a news article some time ago where they've said they have big plans for the Final Fantasy franchise in 2018. So in other words, 2018 is going to be a big year for both Square Enix in their Final Fantasy department as well as for Final Fantasy fans themselves. Now let's look into the fact as to what's going to be done in terms of official releases, as well as talk about some upcoming titles that they may end up doing in the future that they haven't even talked about yet. So for starters, the first thing that they've done was that they've done like a big live stream event where they talked about Final Fantasy 15 as well as their future updates and future DLCs. Recently they did an announcement of where in the main game itself, in the main story campaign, you will get a chance to not only play as Noctis as you have been before, but you can switch in between the 4 characters entirely, which is actually pretty good, actually. I kind of like that idea, the fact that you can actually switch in between different characters. And I think what it is that they wanted to explore different gameplay functionalities between the 3 other characters. And so after that happens, once that final episode comes out, we get the ability to switch in between characters of the 4 characters themselves, meaning that Noctis, Ignis, Gladio, and Prompto, which is actually looking good to see. Like, out of all the updates that they have done so far, which that's not even including some of the quests that they have available to you as of right now, but the fact that you can switch in between characters, that's actually really good, and I'm glad that they did that, because out of all the Final Fantasy titles that they have done in the past, the fact that in 15 you can't switch characters, or switch main characters, should I say, it wasn't really, what's the word I'm looking for? It was saddening, I suppose you could say. Not the best wording I've used, but at the same time, I don't have a big dictionary. But the point is that the fact that you didn't switch characters before was very saddening, but now that you have the ability to switch characters in mid-combat and so on and so forth, that's pretty cool to see. So a lot of people are right now picking up 15, not only because of the new update DLC that's coming out, but also because of this new update that's being implemented into the main game of Final Fantasy 15. And if that ain't enough, they're also confirming the fact that the next update DLC episode that they're going to release is none other than episode Agnya. And I am happy. I'm happy that this is going to be the next episode that gets released for Final Fantasy 15, because I have said that out of any character that I want to see an episode of for Final Fantasy 15, it would be between Adne Asunia and King Reigns himself. And again, I'm still hoping to see like a King Reigns episode video added onto it. Again, it doesn't have to be a major one, and it doesn't have to involve the main story. I just want to see an episode of where King Reigns gets shown a little bit more, because I actually love the guy. He's pretty awesome. He's one of my favorite characters in the game that unfortunately died. And it's like, why'd you kill him off? You made him so lovable and you killed him. this saddens me. But having on in this episode update is this is very relieving of me. That means that we actually get an in-depth feel as to what the story behind his motives are. And if you don't know the full story of Final Fantasy 15, spoiler alert for you guys, On is basically the main villain for 15, and he has his own reason as to why he becomes a villain. And the funny thing is, he's not even a villain by choice. He's a villain because of what he did to save thousands of his people in years past, but unfortunately, because of what he did, it has corrupted him and turned him into a madman, which is unfortunate for the guy. But then again, not all people that have gone mad are evil. I said not all. But to have On to be put into a DLC pack for Final Fantasy 15, that is very relieving of me. That means that the next coming releases of Season Pass for Final Fantasy 15 is looking to be really good. A lot of people are wanting to see a episode of Lunafreya. Again, there is potential material to be used for Lunafreya, but in terms of like how well it would work, I don't think it would be that. I don't think it would be as strong as the other three has been so far. And to see On to be put into it, I can see a lot of potential as to how this story is going to impact, as well as the gameplay functionality that it could have. Who knows, really? But the point is that I'm very happy about this. And I'm hoping that within the next few months from now, as Final Fantasy 15 is already celebrating its 1-year anniversary, and as we go through 2018 to celebrate Final Fantasy 30th anniversary, I'm hoping to see more updates to be put into Final Fantasy 15, as well as a hard mode. I really want a hard mode. Normal mode is okay, but I want a hard mode, for crying out loud. Please put a hard mode into Final Fantasy 15. Please. I'm begging you. You have New Game Plus, make a hard mode. I'm begging you here. But that's just Final Fantasy 15. That's not even including Final Fantasy 14, which is going strong in terms of the MMORPG market. I think it follows that of like second or third place as best RPG or best MMORPG out there. And what I mean by second to third, World of Warcraft is still going strong with a lot of fans still loving the series to this day. But I know a lot of my friends who have played Final Fantasy XIV say that it's a really good MMORPG to them, and they played a lot out of it. So I have no doubt in my mind that they will do some updates for Final Fantasy XIV in terms of celebrating the 30th anniversary. They may do a couple of festivals. They may do like future. I don't want to say it because, as far as I know, I don't think they have that system. But I really hope there isn't a loot crate system. Again, I've never played 14, and I don't even know if it has one. But if it does, it's just, oh gosh, we've already suffered enough as it is with EA, and thankfully they're going down the hole at this point. But the point is that I don't see loot crate being put into. I see DLCs being used for 14, not so much for loot crates. But in terms of like MMORPG games, there's also Final Fantasy 15 Comrades that was just recently released some time ago. So I have no doubt in my mind that they will do a future update with that one, you know. And a lot of people are saying that one's actually pretty good in terms of the gameplay as well as a story perspective through Final Fantasy 15, and it works really well. And the best part is that it's technically free for everyone to play, which I can't knock that out, you know. If it's free to play, there's no reason to not pick it up and try it out for yourself, you know? That's the way I see it. If Final Fantasy 15 Comrades is for free, and you have the game Final Fantasy 15, it's just that much better that you should try it out. But that's just stuff that's currently out as of right now that could be getting updates in terms of the 30th anniversary for Final Fantasy themselves. You also have some upcoming releases that are still being in the process of going through, as well as in the process of confirming releases. For starters, there's Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, which is supposed to come out January 30th of this coming up next year. So in other words, by the time that comes out, it's going to have a humongous lineup of characters, as well as humongous lineup of updates, as well as some future DLC probably that they may put into Final Fantasy NT, who knows. But the point is that one's coming out shortly soon, and that gives enough reason for people to pick it up and to play for the 30th anniversary. But that also begs the question about another title that has yet to have a confirmed release date, much less needs to be talked about, and that is being Final Fantasy VII Remake. We all know that it's coming. We all know it's still being in development. We all know it's coming to who knows when, but the point is, for them to celebrate Final Fantasy 30th anniversary and to say that there's going to be some big updates in terms of like games as well as releases and stuff like that, and they're even going as far as to say that 2018 is going to be big for the Final Fantasy franchise. I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to show off something involving Final Fantasy VII Remake. They have to this time. If they don't, it is going to be a failed, missed opportunity just to show off Final Fantasy VII and what is going to go on within the game. Now, for those of you that have been living in a rock and have no idea what's going on with Final Fantasy VII Remake, basically Final Fantasy VII Remake is going through a rocky stage in terms of development. On the one hand, it had a development team that was being used to help them develop the game. Then that development team decided to be dropped off from that list, and so they're having to rebuild the engine all over again. There's also the fact that they're wanting to release it episodically, and there's a huge fan debate whether or not this should continue on as an episodic series, or if they want the whole game to be released as is. It's just, from looking at it in terms of development-wise, it's looking pretty rough, but in terms of like execution of what we're seeing so far, it's looking actually really good. And in all honesty, I actually like how it looks. I hope that they continue to release more information, and I'm hoping that within the next couple of months in 2018 they will finally reveal a release date, or at least reveal some form of an update. Like, do a major update, a trailer update, do something to let us know that yes, you're still working on Final Fantasy VII, and there are some new stuff that you're going to be doing in terms of like what's going to be added and what's going to be changed in terms of Final Fantasy VII's development. I really want to know, and for a lot of people, they want to know too. But those are just confirmed titles that are to be released or yet to be released. That's not even including the multitude of other titles that they could release. And what I mean by could release, in terms of like what is physically released and in terms of what is digitally released. In terms of physically, we have Final Fantasy X and X-2 released for PS4. We have Final Fantasy XII Zodiac Age released for PS4. We've also got 14 and 15 that are for PS4 and Xbox One. That's not even including the DLC, or not DLC, not including the digital games such as Final Fantasy VII and the most recent Final Fantasy IX. So those are games that are already out for the PS4 just as of right now. You also have the fact that there are rumors as well as some people talking about how they're potentially wanting to release the other titles of Final Fantasy. In other words, in terms of digital, Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 are potentially going to be digital downloaded games that are going to be released for the PS4 and maybe for the Xbox One. I don't know about that part yet, but in terms of digital downloads, those are going to be the games that are going to be getting a digital release. And for a lot of people, I know they were wanting a physical release version of these games, but honestly, despite the fact that these are re-released titles of previous games and they're just being polished up a little bit better, and depending on like they did how Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy IX, where it has like a fast forward functionality as well as like different modifications added onto it, honestly it's worth purchasing the digital game version of that anyway. In my personal opinion, I think when you look at it in the long term, you're not really losing much whenever you're repurchasing the digital version of that game, especially if they've done some added on stuff to make the game a little bit better. Like, for example, I applaud them for adding a fast-forward mechanic to Final Fantasy VII as well as Final Fantasy IX. This is something that is very nice to have, and when you're a fan of Final Fantasy, and the biggest reputation that they have is grinding, having that fast-forward mechanic is a leisure to have in your game. So to have all of the other Final Fantasy games released onto the PlayStation 4 and maybe the Xbox One, and them having the fast forward mechanic, that's actually looking good. And I would actually purchase them again for the PS4 if they actually release them. They haven't mentioned anything about doing it yet, but considering we've recently had Final Fantasy IX put into PS4, I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to be seeing future releases for like the other Final Fantasy titles. Now that's just for digital. I have no doubt in my mind in terms of another physical release, we may see a Final Fantasy 13 trilogy be released for the PS4 and Xbox One as well. Now, why do I say Final Fantasy 13 seeing a physical release? Well, that's not to say that it won't have a digital, but they will work towards getting a physical release just like how they've had with the other previous titles like 10, 12, 15, as well as 14. 13 will definitely have a physical release, but will anyone really care much for picking that up trilogy set? There's still a good handful of people that would actually like to get a 13 trilogy set. Honestly, they would. And it's not that bad of a game, just don't bother playing the sequels. I'll promise you on that one. The main game itself is good on its own, and you're not missing much out in terms of a sequel. They just made the sequels just to help make the game better. In a sense, technically, it kind of did, but that was in Lightning Returns. In terms of 13-2's case, it actually worsened the game, which is unfortunate. But that's all I wanted to say about the Final Fantasy series, as well as the future of what could possibly potentially be released for Final Fantasy in 2018. I'm looking forward to all the changes, as well as all the future updates that they're going to do for the Final Fantasy franchise. And I know, as well as you guys, you're looking forward to it as well. So let me know in the comments below of what titles you want to see being released for future Final Fantasy stuff, as well as what you would potentially like to see in terms of updates for 15, 14, and who knows what other Final Fantasy titles that they're going to be releasing as of next year. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. This is BlackCross signing off. Take care, guys.